guess you could say that some people would call me a photographer. I've been shooting stills and shooting images really for over 15 years, but I only started taking it serious just recently. Well, maybe not recently, for the past 3 years. And it's interesting because along the way I've also started to really analyze what it means to be a Christian, what it means to have faith, and what it also means to worship. Along the way, I've even learned and even heard some people say it. I guess I even buy into the idea that what you do is also your worship. As a photographer, I haven't always done things that I think would line up with what someone would call worship. But as I start to learn more about what I believe and how that works in my relationship with the Lord, I'm starting to really redefine what it means to be a photographer. Right here, the idea of a photographer is to capture a moment, capture the essence of a moment. Because there's so many different ways to capture a moment, you need different tools. The main tool a photographer uses is the lens. Now here you can see I've got a variety of lenses because there are different moments that you can catch.
Straight up, see?
A short lens or a small lens like this is usually done for close-ups. This lens here is a 50 millimeter lens, but it allows me to kind of get close to the subject, and this is what a photographer would count on if they were doing headshots or something like that. It's interesting when you're thinking about headshots because there is no background. Usually you're focusing right in on the subject. You then have what is called a mid-range lens, and the mid-range lens is sometimes what we call our walk-around lens. Now, this particular lens is probably my favorite lens because it will allow me to take pictures of things that are just maybe a couple of feet away or all the way up to maybe even 100 feet away. But this, more importantly, will allow me to get a subject and the subject's background. Background is kind of interesting when you're starting to look at the person and what moment you're trying to capture. Here you have your zoom lens. Now this is usually done and used in sporting events. Sporting events like maybe a football game or a basketball game, you use a zoom lens when you're trying to capture the action and you want to get real close, but you can't get right on the actual field of play itself. It allows you to stand on the sidelines, but at the same time get close enough to be able to represent what it's like to be there. This is probably the most important lens I have in my kit, and it's what I call my wide lens. This wide lens here allows me to take what is considered a landscape shot. With a landscape shot, you can cover a distance that is wider than what people normally would even be able to see with their human eye without starting to lose focus. A wide lens also usually reveals the entire background. When it comes to a wide lens or a zoom lens, or even sometimes the mid-range lens, all offer us an opportunity as photographers to capture the essence of what's going on. Now, as I began to draw a parallel between photography and worship, I found myself starting to scrutinize what it means to be in the foreground versus what it means to be in the background. Or if you put the two together and you focus on the foreground, what's going on in the background? In my life, I found that it's really difficult for me to find my personal relationship or personal conversation at its best with the Lord when my background is cluttered. And often I've not really taken the time to look and see what I've got going on in my background. Sometimes we can even believe that our ability to focus on something close up means that that's where our attention is. But if you've ever tried to do homework while the TV's on in the background, or if you've ever tried to concentrate on something while people are talking in the background, we know that background noise can make a difference on what your focus is in the front ground. Same thing with photography. The idea that what you do, even outside of the walls of the church, outside of the building, I should say, is still possibly your worship, is something that I have to reconcile every day. As a photographer, we have opportunities to shoot things that don't line themselves up with the Lord or with Scripture. And every day I have an opportunity to prove whether my work is my worship. I haven't always been where I needed to be there, but as I grow closer to my relationship with the Lord, I'm constantly looking forward to prove to the Lord and to myself that my work, my craft, and what I love the most can be my worship and can line up 100% with what He expects from me.